Hi everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. Today we're going to do a side-by-side, nose-to-nose and all that good stuff comparison between the 2023 version of the Honda Pilot that is fully redesigned for the 2023 model year and the 2023 GMC Acadia that was last redesigned for the 2017 model year, but it still has a lot of great features, a lot of great functionality, and looks very relevant even being a few years into this particular generation. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going to get upset about this, but sometimes when you live in the real world, this is the way things go. This is going to be the AT4 trim level right here. This is not going to be a comparable trim level, and the reason for that is because of what was available on the lot, but that's okay. I'm still going to walk you through similarities and differences as far as what the Acadia has compared to what this Pilot does not, but does have available. But I think we're still going to be able to do a really good job of getting our point across as to the differences and similarities as we compare these two three-row mid-size SUVs. And by the way, I borrowed this Honda Pilot from my friends at Holmes Honda and the GMC Acadia from my friends at Morgan Buick GMC. The links for each model will be found down in the description of the video. When we take a look from this particular view, both vehicles are pretty much the same size. They sit at about the same ride height, and the front ends are somewhat similar to one another with very large and wide front grills, the lower grills being a little bit smaller, but on the Pilot, if you like your lower grills a little bigger, well, there you go. That one's probably going to win out. One thing that will be different here is the fact that with the Pilot, you have the active air curtains right here to help improve gas mileage. We don't have that over here on the Acadia, as this is just here purely for looks, but not necessarily a bad thing. Looking at the headlight designs, LED is going to be pretty much everywhere you look on both models, and I do like the new design for the headlight housing on the 23 Pilot. I think it looks nice, a little bit longer and a little bit more slender, and you still have kind of a similar look here with the GMC version. It looks, well, GMC-like because it somewhat matches the design of other GMC vehicles. You will see the C logo with the daytime running lights and the turn signal indicators here on this side. It's a little bit easier than trying to imagine over there on the other side. And as far as overall body lines go, well, again, kind of similar to a great degree as far as the front end goes. Now, that is a big change for 2023 for the Pilot because it's a little more squared off than it used to be. But at the same time, it still has some very nice character lines. It's not completely flat, it's not completely squared off, it doesn't have the actual dimensions and aerodynamics of a brick. And so that's going to make a big difference. One of the things that's definitely going to be different is what's under the hood. Let's talk about what each model has. Displacement-wise, both motors pretty much the same. The 3.5 liter V6 in the Honda is new for this year for the Pilot. It makes now 285 horsepower and 262 pounds-feet of torque. It's mated to a tuned specifically for the Pilot 10-speed automatic transmission. Gone is the former 9-speed. Now, you can get these in front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, which is the same case with the Acadia. In this case, it's a 3.6 liter V6. Now, it does make more horsepower at 310. The torque numbers come in at 271 pounds-feet. It's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. And again, the same situation. You can get the Acadia in all-wheel drive, as we have here, or you can get it in front-wheel drive. So let's take a look at the differences in MPGs between the two vehicles. With the Honda Pilot, 19 city, 27 highway, 22 combined, and 4.5 gallons of gas per every 100 miles driven. So what are the differences going to be with the Acadia? 19 city, 26 highway, 21 combined, and 4.8 gallons of gas per every 100 miles driven. So a very similar set of numbers on both models. And purely from an automotive journalist standpoint, there is a big difference here. Surprisingly, the fact that the new Honda CR-V for the 2023 model year has the hood struts that help to raise and keep the hood up, Well, I'm surprised that's not here on the Pilot. You still have the old manual prop rod. I don't know if that's that big of a deal to most people. From an automotive journalist standpoint, I prefer the strut that we have here, just a singular hood strut. A lot of the time you have two, one on each side back there towards the rear of the area of the hood here, of the engine bay here. But in this particular case, that is not the way that it is. And the remotes. On the left is the remote for the Honda Pilot, and on the right is the remote for the GMC Acadia. And you can see some of the differences as far as what's there and what's not. And keep in mind, some of that is dependent on trim level. And once again, one of the issues with two different trim levels, but really not necessarily that big of a deal, because on the Pilot, depending on trim level, you can have the heated power adjustable side view mirrors with the turn signal indicators built in. That's not here, but if you want to spend less money than you would spend on the Acadia, well, the Pilot would definitely work in this particular case. We do have the turn signal indicators built in here with the power adjustable side view mirrors with the turn signal indicators built in and the blind spot monitoring. And one thing that you'll find on both models is going to be this right here. This is passive entry is what it's called on the Acadia. So push that, I can lock and unlock all four doors. I can also do that from the rear door on this particular model. Now, you can pretty much do the same thing over here with the Pilot. You can hear that it's locking and unlocking the doors as I touch the door handle right there. There's not actually a button to push or anything like that. Now on this particular trim level, no, you won't find that on the rear doors. One thing that's very interesting is that you can see some of the similarities. I don't know if I can get a good enough angle here to show you both at the same time. There we go. Some similarities to what we have in the design of the windows. The size of the windows are very similar to one another. Kind of makes you wonder if the Honda engineers visited the GMC engineers. No, that didn't really happen. We know that, but there are some differences in the body lines on both as far as that goes. And if you're saying, oh man, I want my roof rails on my Pilot, that's okay. Those are available. You just have to change trim levels to get that. Like I said earlier in the video, the things that are missing from one model to the next are available on upper trim levels. It's just one of those things that happen in the world of car reviews. And taking a look at the rear, both looking pretty nice, and from this angle you can see that the Pilot actually does sit a little bit higher, just a tiny bit, than the Acadia. Don't know that that really matters that much, but both have nice looking taillights. If you want a little bit fuller, larger taillight, well, the LED version that we have here with the Acadia surrounding its way, kind of having, again, that C look right here, as you can see right there, no pun intended. But the Pilot definitely not lacking in that particular area, that's for sure. Now, who wins in the battle of towing? We're not going to actually hitch these up to anything today. I wish we could to really give it a true test. But according to the numbers, the Acadia can tow up to 4,000 pounds. Well, the Pilot is definitely going to win out, on paper at least, because it tows up to 5,000 pounds. So who wins out in the cargo capacity war? Well, 18.6 to 86.5 up to 87 cubic feet is what we have with the Pilot. Obviously, you can lower the seats, not only here in the rear, but in the center seat area to maximize cargo capacity. So what are the cargo capacity numbers here with the GMC Acadia? 12.8 up to a maximized 79 cubic feet. Yeah, it's not a major difference, but there is a difference. I don't know if I can get this seat to fold down. There we go, one-handed like that, but there we go, we got the job done. And obviously you're gonna do the same thing here with the Acadia on the middle row seats to get that to lower down. Pretty simple to do. That's how you're gonna maximize your cargo capacity. And looking in through the rear door on the passenger side, you'll see that we have a nice armrest here that is pretty comfortable. When you put your arm on it, it feels a lot better than it does when you actually poke on it like that, as if you're testing for the doneness of a steak. And you do have a little bit of a space up here. Let's get that correct. Space up here, kind of part of an upper door bin, but it's not a large area. You do have much larger space down here in the lower portion. And one thing I do want to show you right here, even though I don't know how likely it is that somebody is going to have the seat that far forward, but that can tell you the difference between the two as far as space goes. Now, I am going to move this seat up and out of the way just so we can see Now that is going to be something that's going to be different between here and what we'll have on the Pilot, but I'll show you that in just a minute. So let's hop on inside and we'll take a look at what we have with our leg space. I have quite a bit actually. That's pretty impressive. And we'll swing around here, give you a little bit of a look at head space. Now, you do have the pass-through right here. And if we hop over here to the other side, maximum leg space. There is a lot of space back here actually in that respect. And even with the seat that's all the way back on this side, still not too bad. What about the view? Well, there's what we have. Now, in this case, we have the front and rear sunroofs. Really not a panoramic sunroof because it's not consistent throughout. It's not one big piece of glass, so to speak. But you do have this rear sunroof and the conventional size in the front. Now, on the Pilot, we don't have a sunroof at all, but a panoramic sunroof is available. And the larger of the door bins will definitely be found here, at least for the back doors, with the larger upper door bin here and the lower door bin. And the difference that I was talking about earlier is the fact that you just push that button right there and the seat moves right up and out of the way. You still have to push it just a tiny bit like that. But let's hop into the back seat and see what the differences are. And before we hop into the back seat area, I do want to show you what you have as far as being able to move the seats back and forth. Basically the same thing. Now there is one big difference between the two. Depending on trim level with the Pilot, you can actually remove this middle seat right here. Basically the same thing you can do with the Honda Odyssey minivan. And with the seats here all the way back, I do have a lot of legroom space, but on the LX trim level, I cannot remove this middle seat and create that pass-through that we had on the Acadia. So there is a little bit of a limitation here with the Pilot where that is concerned, but still a lot of leg space back here. And how about headroom space? Another look at my terrible looking hair. A little bit more space, I think, above my head here if I lean over just a little bit. Now, if I'm over here towards the left, my left, well, there you go. It actually decreases a little bit, but still ample space in the third row of both models. And we'll start out in the middle row area with the Honda Pilot and show you what you'll find back here. You'll have no seat back pocket here on the driver's seat, but a seat back pocket on the passenger side, air conditioning vents, and a couple of connectivity options. And as far as your drink holders go for the middle row, that's what you're going to do. Fold that area down. That works out pretty well. A little bit of space here for the snacks. But like I said earlier, even though there's no sunroof here, if you did have a sunroof in this Pilot, it would be a true panoramic sunroof. And if we were comparing true apples to apples here based on trim levels, we would see some similarities here as far as the controls for the air conditioning vents and all that good stuff on the Pilot. But this shows you what's available on both vehicles. You would have the air conditioning vents back here in the Pilot as well, just like we just saw, but you could control everything on higher trim levels, and you're going to have, as you can see here in the Acadia, the addition of a power outlet in addition to those two USB options. And just taking a quick look across at the technology here, very easy to learn and use. Here are your steering wheel mounted controls. You can hit the home button right there and then hit it one more time and you can go through a lot of different information. You can see how I'm scrolling through all of that. We're not going to go through every single little thing, but you can see you've got that, your cruise control right here, paddle shifters for that 10-speed automatic transmission, and the digital instrument cluster overall. A nice look, very easy technology to use here as far as the infotainment screen goes. Obviously you can pair your phone with both. And in this particular case, we're going to have the multi-view rear view camera, and that flashing effect you see is because of the shutter speed of my GoPro, so don't worry about that. It has nothing to do with the screen. Now you do have 3 different views there. As you can see, going up on trim level, you actually can have so many cameras that there would be a button right here that you could push and it would bring up the cameras on the screen. Front view, rear view, it actually has a front view camera washer. On the Trail Sport version, it has the Trail Cam. I have videos on all of those different models if you want to look those up. We're going to have dual zone climate control here. And while the heated seats are available, they're not here on this particular trim level, but obviously those are things you can have, such as wireless charging as well. We have our connectivity options, a 12-volt and the USB connections. And both models are going to have the push-button shifter, although This Honda shifter is in a very different position than what we'll have with the Acadia. You'll see that shortly. But overall, a pretty simple setup here as far as the interior goes. A nice large center console, that's for sure. A lot of space down in there. And that lid doubles as an armrest. For me personally, depending on where the seat is set, I'd say that works pretty well. But if I was taller, I don't know if that would work or not. It might be too low. And here in the Acadia, we're still going to have that nice look with the digital dash and really kind of a combination of digital and some analog gauges on each side. So, well, you just make your choice, right? What do you like? What do you not? And basically the same setup on our steering wheel mounted controls, and very easy to use, very easy to work. We don't have the shifter paddles here to go through the transmission the same way, but I don't know that that's that big of a deal to most people. And one thing that you'll find here that you won't find on the Pilot that we have in the video today but is available is going to be seat memory. So you'll also have that on both models depending on trim level. But one thing that definitely is going to be different is going to be the screen. And while you have pretty much the same technology, you do have a different look here compared to what we had with the Pilot over there. And you do have multiple rear view cameras, which again, the Pilot has all of these same features available, just like I was talking about, even that overhead 360-degree view. It's just one of those things that happens depending on available inventory. And by the way, I am seeing a big increase in a lot of available vehicle inventories at most car lots these days, for those who may be kind of curious about that. And by the way, you can go to the cameras on both models by pushing a button basically, or pushing on the screen here in this case on the Pilot. If you're on a high enough trim level, like I said, you'd push something right there, a button right there, not something, but a button right there on the lever for the windshield wipers. Let's see if I can get that out appropriately. But you can see what's here as far as that goes. We're going to have dual zone climate control here as well. And something that, again, is available on both models. It's just a trim level issue, but the heated seats and all that good stuff. And we do have the push button shifter here, but it's in a very different location and quite a different setup as far as that goes. You've got reverse, you can push to go into neutral, and then pull to go into drive, push to go back into park. And in this particular case, we also have our driving modes. This model is all-wheel drive. The Pilot is also available in all-wheel drive. And depending on trim level, it actually, on, I believe, the Touring and the Trail Sport, maybe Elite as well, come standard all-wheel drive. I may be wrong about that, but I'm sure somebody will be happy to correct me in the comments. This model is also all-wheel drive, but like I said, you can get these Pilots, or excuse me, these Acadias in front-wheel drive or front all-wheel drive, depending on trim level and options. So one thing that is going to be different here is going to be the size of the center console. A little bit smaller here than what we had in the Pilot, but it is sitting up a little bit higher. I like that a little bit more. At least my personal view, that for me works a little bit better. And a quick look around the overall look of the interior as far as how it looks here. You know, being that it's been quite a few years since the Acadia has been redesigned, I still think it has a very nice look and is very competitive with that of the new Pilot. Okay, we're going to start our test drives. Yes, I'm going to do test drives today. I know I don't always do that in these comparison videos, but some of you have asked for it, so here you go. So we're going to start out with the Pilot. You probably knew that because you're positioned in the windshield. I didn't have really any other place to put you where the view would be somewhat decent. So the ride quality of the Pilot is good. I don't know if I'd say it's improved a lot from the previous generation, but I don't think it really needed to. Still rides very well, maybe a little bit better, but I don't think that it really needed much where that was concerned. The seats themselves are pretty comfortable, and depending on trim level with the Pilot, obviously you can have fully adjustable seats. These are manually adjustable in this case on the LX trim level. But at least that lets you know what's there and what's available as far as all that goes. The Pilot is a very agile vehicle, very easy to drive. It's easily maneuverable. And even being a decent size, mid-size SUV, it's not obviously the size of a Cadillac Escalade or anything that's full size, but it's still a very nice vehicle, very enjoyable to drive, gets around town with absolutely no problem. And the acceleration is good. Now, the horsepower difference is not that much between these two vehicles. But we'll get out on the road in just a second when I can turn, and we'll see what we can do here. Okay, well, depending on traffic, obviously that's going to determine what I can do acceleration test-wise. But I can tell you that getting up to speed here with the Pilot is absolutely no problem. I'm really minimizing my efforts to do so, and you can see that I'm passing people and even having bright-minded drivers, such as the driver of this Ford F-250, who I guess hasn't seen my turn signal tutorial video because you saw what just happened. But overall, I must say, I like what we have here with the Pilot. Now let's switch over to the Acadia and see if I can give you a good idea of what the differences might be, if any at all. Okay, we're going to start our test drive now in the Acadia. So I'm going to take the same path we took with the Pilot. So let's see what happens here on this particular road testing ride quality, because I know the Pilot rides well, and well, so does this Acadia. Can I really tell a big difference between the two? Well, I can tell a little bit of a difference, and here's why. This is the AT4 trim level, so a little more off-road capable. Yeah, but just a little bit more of a rigid ride, but you know what? It's not bad. It's not uncomfortable. It's definitely not unbearable. It's not a big deal. This is a very comfortable vehicle to drive. It's easy to get around in, and it's very similar to that of the Pilot as far as its maneuverability and ease of just working your way in and out of really heavy traffic. A good vehicle for big city driving, even though these are decent size, mid-size SUVs, I don't think you'll have any trouble with that. And the good thing, 3 rows, you still have plenty of room for the family. Maybe if you're hauling the kids around to football practice or whatever they're doing, you know, even a couple of friends can come hang out or get a ride or whatever the case may be. Once again, we're going to be stuck at this red light for a few seconds, but we'll get out onto the road here shortly and do a little acceleration test. So shortly for you is a little different than shortly for me, but let's see if I can tell a difference. Got to do a little bit better acceleration pull there than I did with the Pilot, but you know, I can tell a little bit of a difference in the higher horsepower and torque numbers, even though the torque's not that much different, and we're only talking about 285 horsepower for the Pilot compared to 310 here with this particular Acadia. You're not going to see that big of a difference. It really more comes down to personal preference. What is it you really like in a vehicle, and which one offers those things? One thing for sure I will say here is that both offer a lot of great features, a lot of great functionality, and while you may not have everything here on, or didn't have everything on the Pilot, I should say, that's available here on the Acadia, but it is available for the Pilot, and that just makes a big difference. You know, I know people are probably going to gripe and complain in the comments section because, well, I couldn't magically pull the same or comparable trim levels out, but you know, it just is what it is. But like I said in the video, I want to make sure that everybody understands everything that's available here on this Acadia is also available on the 2023 version of the Honda Pilot. But ultimately, it's a really difficult decision. If I had to give the nod from one vehicle to the next, I'm not sure which one I would honestly give it to, because both have great features, great functionality. They both have modern day technology. Now, the Pilot may look newer and look a little bit more modern because, well, it was just redesigned for the 2023 model year. But one way or another, whichever one you choose, you're definitely going to be happy with either vehicle. Okay, there you go. Tell me which model you like most, the Honda Pilot, or do you like the GMC Acadia? Maybe there's some things you like about one you don't like about the other, and vice versa. It just depends. Both great models, that's for sure, for mid-size 3-row SUVs. So gotta say a special thanks to my friends at Holmes Honda and Morgan Buick GMC for loaning me both of these models for the day. And a special thanks to each and every one of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn about other vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now. And for those of you who stuck around to this point in the video, if you have particular vehicles you want to see me line up and do a comparison on, tell me down in the comments.